Hi everybody, and thanks for joining us this week on Up in the Air. I'm Christy Stewart, and with me at the desk is Kelly and class.
Thanks, Christy. I'm really excited to be back from spring break and continue on with Up in the Air. This week we have stories on climate change, an earthquake in California, and even solar weather impacting animals.
Yep, and as always, we will be stopping by the Climate Wall and visiting Lydia, and she will have updates on the future weather and climate.
We'll have all that and more, but first, here's Update in the Air.
Could a new scale better analyze a tornado's strength? A 90-person committee is working on adjusting the current scale in use, the Enhanced Fujita Scale. The members of this committee have recognized the Enhanced Fujita Scale has too vague of guidelines, especially in trees. The current scale only differentiates between hard and soft wood damages. However, each tree reacts differently to being struck by a tornado based on its age, size, and species. The updated scale will account for these differences. It will also help surveyors determine the strength of a tornado through an open field by taking into account other factors than just physical storm damage. The committee hopes these updates to the Enhanced Fujita Scale will work well with the new impact-based tornado warnings being put into effect soon, where warnings will be tagged as basic, significant, or catastrophic based on the tornado size. They also hope it will help improve building codes. The committee's goal is to have this updated scale in effect by the end of 2019.
From rising sea levels to policies, climate change is everywhere in our headlines these days. However, climate change may not only rise sea level, but it may also boost mercury in ecosystems, impacting wildlife and the food chain. According to a recent study published in Science Advances, rising temperatures may cause localized increases in the amount of toxic mercury introduced into ecosystems, impacting wildlife and the food chain. Mercury in ecosystems has risen 2 to 5-fold since the dawn of the industrial age. Scientists in Sweden conducted a study to determine how and why increases in mercury can happen. According to these scientists, rising temperatures in certain regions can increase the amount of precipitation. This precipitation then runs off into the aquatic ecosystem and increases the natural organic matter of the water from the soil, causing the water to become brownish. This decreases the amount of sunlight that can penetrate the water, causing a decrease in photosynthetic production of phytoplankton and the increasing amount of bacteria in the water. This bacteria causes a change in the structure of the food web from being dominated by phytoplankton to being dominated by bacteria. Increasing this bacteria can form the toxic compound methylmercury. This can be a problem for humans because methylmercury is enriched by a factor of 10 in each step on the food web, meaning the concentration increases 10 times as you go up in the food chain, which directly impacts humans and since they are at the top of the food chain and consume fish. So the next time someone says climate change doesn't impact humans, you can prove them wrong and impress them with your knowledge of methylmercury.
Last week, a world-famous structure crumbled to the ocean floor. Malta's Azure Window off the coast of Gozo was one of the Mediterranean archipelago's most popular landmarks. The rock arch was demolished by rough, raging seas attacking the structure. Many of Malta's residents are deeply saddened by the loss of the Azure Window, but they have found a new structure to look out upon in the arch's remains. A face looking into the sea. They have appropriately named it the Azure Ghost. While the news of Azure's Window's destruction shocked thousands around the world, geologists in 2013 concluded the remarkable rock structure would eventually collapse from erosion. However, they were unaware the structure was in imminent danger and expected its disappearance several decades from now.
On TV, we often hear the terms meteorological and astronomical seasons being thrown around. But do you actually know the difference between the two? Astronomical seasons are considered the official season because of the way the Earth's axis tilts in relation to the sun. However, meteorologists base this first season off the annual temperature cycles and the Gregorian calendar, which is just the calendar we use in today's world. According to the National Centers for Environmental Information, the meteorological seasons were created because traditional seasons varied in length from 89 to 93 days, and it was difficult for scientists to compare statistics from one year to another. We typically think of winter as being the coldest time of the year and summer being the warmest time of the year, with spring and fall being in the transition seasons, and that is what the meteorological seasons are based on. In the Northern Hemisphere, meteorological spring includes March, April, and May. Meteorological summer includes June, July, and August. Meteorological fall includes September, October, and November. and meteorological winter includes December, January, and February. This year's astronomical spring begins on March 20th, summer, June 20th, fall, September 22nd, and winter, December 21st. While it may be meteorological spring, the official day of spring is right around the corner.
Geologists have found the southern part of the San Andreas Fault is overdue for a major earthquake, and residents could expect a 7.5 magnitude or greater quake within 30 years. On average, strong quakes occur near the Tejon Pass every 100 years. It has been 160 years since the last major earthquake there, and the seismic stress is building. If such a quake were to occur in the near future, aqueducts that transport water into Southern California would be severely damaged. Transmission lines would be disrupted. Over 1,800 feet of land would be displaced. Grapevine sections of Interstate 5 would be battered, and over $200 billion in damages would be incurred. Researchers are learning how to predict earthquakes through recurring behavior of active faults and excavating trenches to learn more about quakes over the last 1,200 years. Predicting earthquakes can help promote better infrastructure designs like highways, water lines, and power lines to withstand the next quake.
At least once in our life, we will hear something called a geomagnetic storm. Geomagnetic storms are caused by solar flares or solar wind shock waves that usually strike the Earth's magnetic field 24 to 36 hours after the event. These storms, also known as space weather, are known for disrupting power grids, radio communication, and satellites that orbit Earth. However, it may have an impact on the navigational abilities of certain marine animals. Researchers from the International Fund for Animal Welfare and the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management will combine with NASA on a study that would examine how space weather may impact certain species' navigational functions. Some of these species include whales, dolphins, and porpoises. A NASA scientist on this research has several theories on why space weather conditions may result in healthy mammals washing ashore. One theory including the magnetic anomalies to distort the animals. If researchers can determine a relationship between the two, they hope that observations of these storms could serve as an early warning that strandings could occur and allow global responders to take action and have an opportunity to save the animals. We'll be back with more. Thanks for tuning back in.
We now have a special feature from our very own Quinn Lease on fossil fuels.
Have you ever wondered what's in the air you breathe? Global greenhouse gas emissions have steadily been on the increase since the Industrial Revolution, where the burning of fossil fuels was the greatest. Believe it or not, humans are the main culprit for this disastrous increase. Just in the past 2 years, the concentration of greenhouse gases has increased more than any observed level in human history. This is concerning. However, people at Penn State and NASA are tracking the fluxes of carbon and methane and the transport of these gases by weather systems.
It's actually a key component in the long-term climate. Through the greenhouse effect, molecules of carbon keep heat at the surface of the Earth, and we get a warmer climate or a colder climate if we get less carbon. So to predict what is going to happen in the future, we need to understand better how the carbon is interacting between the surface and the atmosphere.
It's important that people know how their day-to-day activities are affecting the environment as a whole. If we continue that business as normal scenario, we could be in for a disastrous situation in the near future. Sea level rise due to melting glaciers will threaten millions of people who live along the coastlines worldwide and cause food shortages that will be felt as well. Countries will need to communicate with one another to ensure a sustainable future for our generations to come. For Up in the Air, I'm Quinn Lease.
Welcome back to the show. Well, we just came back from spring break, and I had a fantastic time. How was your spring break, Kellyanne?
It was really relaxing, and I'm glad we got the spring break. I definitely needed it. But Lydia, how was your spring break?
Oh, mine was fantastic. I actually got the chance to go down to Miami with a couple of friends and spend some time on the beach and in the sand, so it was great. Definitely a change from State College.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you look tan compared to me. I'm still a little bit pale, but yeah, you look really tan, and I'm glad you enjoyed your spring break. How's that snowfall looking for you?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. So we do know that it is technically meteorological spring right now, but there are portions of the country that are still experiencing some significant snow depth. So even up into the northwest, we see around 36 inches or snow of current snow depth, and into the northeastern portions of the country we see in Maine, they are also experiencing snow depths in around 3 feet. Next week's air pattern, though, is showing that this ridge will be dipping to the south of us and ushering in warmer temperatures to the south of Pennsylvania. And then we do have this trough that's dipping in a little bit higher above the country. And then that is correlated with our temperature map, which we see above normal temperatures really will be ushering in throughout the majority of the country. And so in Texas, they'll definitely be experiencing much above normal. And then down over into Miami, and exactly where I was last week, they will be experiencing the same. But for us here in Pennsylvania, we will be experiencing those below normal temperatures. And so that's where these shades of blue are. And even up into Maine, they will also be experiencing some cooler temperatures, as well as over into the northwestern portions in Washington. Our precipitation outlook showing the entire country practically above normal for precipitation right now. And even over in Oregon, you see there's a small patch that is much above normal. But then, like I said, down below in Miami again, they will be experiencing below normal precipitation, mostly due to that sunshine that they'll be seeing because of that ridge due to the next week's upper air pattern. Our drought monitor showing California again seeing some relief from that drought, which is absolutely fantastic compared to what they were experiencing last summer and even last semester during the fall. And then over in Pennsylvania, we see over in Harrisburg and towards the southeast of us in State College, they are still experiencing a little bit of a drought. And then up into the New England, some of the states there, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and parts of New Hampshire, Vermont, as well as Maine. That's all I have at the climate wall right now, though, guys. Heading back to you.
Thanks, Lydia.
Well, that's all that we have for this week's episode of Up in the Air. I'm Christy Stewart.
And I'm Kellyanne Class.
We'll see you next week, Up in the Air.